Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another film theory reaction, and this is the Unsolved Mysteries of the Knights of Guinevere. So yeah, the Knights of Guinevere, the newest pilot, or newest show I should really be saying given how popular it's been, from Glitch Productions, and their first 2D animated show, whose creator, or at least one of the creators, was one of the heads on the Owl House. And you know, the pilot has done what it set out to do. It made everybody who watched it very intrigued about the world and the very many mysteries of it. And honestly, the biggest question for me is just where are they going to be going? I'd imagine, the biggest thing is just, helping, helping Guinevere and, just protecting her or keeping her safe from, the big park planet, from getting her again, from Olivia. I think that's what her name is, the old woman we saw who was the child we saw. But yeah, it seems like our Gwen, whether it's the original Gwen, the first or whatever, she's been through a lot, very much a lot. And again, there have been so many things, there were a lot of, and granted, of course, as with any new fandom, there have always been rough patches. There was a lot of discourse about, whether Frankie was trans or not, or, non-binary or something, which it has been confirmed that, she is, a cis woman, just for anybody that didn't know that. But honestly, honestly, ever since I first saw Murder Drones, I have liked basically every single thing that Glitch has put out. And, granted, again, I have no idea how long the pre-production on this show is going to be, because, again, I've heard that they're not, moving forward with main production on, the Gaslight District and Knights of Guinevere until they finished up the Amazing Digital Circus. And honestly, I love all those shows, but this one, I need to see what happens next. So yeah, I might as well stop yapping. Let's actually see where this video goes. So let's get this thing started. So of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video link to my game theory reaction. And if you like this video or any other video that I make, I'd very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel, because almost 3/4 of the people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, and I'd very much like that to change, because my next big goal is hopefully hit 6,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
Why are people getting sick in the Knights of Guinevere? What is blue lung, and how is it related to the parks? Is there any way to reverse it? And of course, what the heck does any of this have to do with the Walt Disney Company? Yeah, this one's perfect for a theory, huh?
Yeah.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's
in dire need of rescue.
So, hey, have you guys seen the pilot for the Knights of Guinevere? If you don't know, this is a new show created by Dana Terrace, who previously created the Owl House, and Glitch Productions, the talented folks behind the Amazing Digital Circus. No joke, but the Owl House might be in the top 5 most requested series to do a theory about for us, ever. And believe me, we are working on one. So a new show from this creator was absolutely something I wanted to hop on immediately. And man, there was a lot going on here. An awesome new world to explore, animation that bounced from adorable to violent, cameos galore, and jokes. So many jokes.
Why would anyone splice the facial controls into the environmental pipeline? It's not a very sophisticated solution.
The pilot follows a pair of characters named Frankie and Andy, 2 women who work for or around Park Planet, an amusement park run by, well, the Park family. And if you say the word park enough, it sure does start to lose meaning. Anyway, clearly something malicious is going on around Park Planet, as everyone around it seems to be getting sick, and it's causing them to cough up this weird blue stuff.
Honestly, so I've heard a couple of theories about what that could potentially be. And the one that I kind of thought would be, potentially could be cobalt poisoning. Because cobalt is a heavy metal, it's poisonous to humans. But it's also very conductive, so it might be in whatever the weird blue blood that, is in Guinevere, and seemingly all of the animatronics that they have at Park Planet. Just, just to have them operate. given, the planet, that they're on M7 is probably owned in its entirety by Park Planet, where, like, the way I've assumed it is, where basically you have the parks floating around in the sky, and then basically the entire surface is there just to facilitate and supply them, basically. And I wouldn't be surprised if Park Planet owned the entire planet, and as a result, they were basically skimping on a lot of health and safety regulations for those, those poor, unfortunate souls that live on the ground. I mean, it's something I didn't notice when I watched when I did my reaction to it was when you're seeing Frankie doing all of her, like, odd jobs, when she's repairing, like, that one little statuette machine, on the wall behind her was a sign that said, "Your safety is your problem," or something like that. And something I also didn't notice at the first time was her boss, the woman with the clipboard, only had one arm. So yeah, it very much seems like there's not a lot of worker protections in place in this planet. Yay.
Or even turn blue in some other cases.
Yeah,
Just saying it's
the
not
blue
going well
babies.
for the average Joe around here.
No.
But the rich don't seem to care as long as the parks remain operational. Speaking of, Park Planet is built around the character Princess Guinevere. She's kind of like their Mickey Mouse meets Disney princess mascots, animatronic, and main character all wrapped up into one.
With, basically the stylings of Barbie, because she's used in literally everything. They just swap out, the costume.
But something darker is going on with Guinevere too. It seems like there's a consciousness inside of her that doesn't want this and is willing to go to any lengths to escape.
It's okay, Papa. They'll bring her back. And when they do, I'll fix her again.
And if she's confronted with something big and scary, she isn't afraid to throw down. This pilot was awesome, so please go watch it so Glitch knows that there's an interest in more episodes. But most importantly,
I already have
for us,
several
here on
times.
Film Theory, there are a lot of threads that they could pull on for the story that they're crafting here, which could make for some good theory fodder. If you're
And that's the whole thing. Like, I've complained about it before. How, like, all the Glitch series I've watched up to this point, Murder Drones, Amazing Angel Circus, all of they all have very small number counts. Like, Murder Drones was 8 episodes because because at the time Glitch was a lot smaller. It was like their first big series that gained, like, widespread appeal, and it allowed them to grow much bigger. But they were still limited to such a short series, and I've said multiple times that I feel that really hampered the series, like, storytelling potential. I know the Amazing Digital Circus is only going to be 9 episodes, but that's because that's as long as of a series that as Gooseworks actually just wrote. I've heard absolutely nothing in regards to potential series lengths of the Gaslight District and Knights of Guinevere, and I hope that they're longer.
If you're interested in hopping onto the theorizing bandwagon with this new series, there's already a subreddit with a dedicated community, and I'm sure Discord isn't too far behind. Oh, and I also want to give a big shout out to friend of the channel, Whitney Vision, who shared her notes for the pilot and made this quick turnaround possible. It already takes us like 2 weeks to actually make a video minimum, and between our new merch and SIF coming up and other secret projects, it's been heckin' busy here at Theorist, so that was a lifesaver. Thanks, Whitney. Anyway, speaking of theory fodder that could really go somewhere, there's like a QR code hidden in the show leading to a hidden website, which will definitely have ARG elements in there. There's also mention that the model of the Guinevere bot that they find in the trash isn't really one that any of the characters recognize, so there's something going on there too. Whether this is a new one, an old one, or just a secret one, that remains to be seen.
I mean, my whole thought process on it is potentially, it's the same model Gwen that we saw at the very beginning of the episode, that Olivia, it was like Olivia's personal one. That's why she was, like, getting so worked up about it. But it's like, again, it's her personal model. So she's, like, worked on it, repaired it, like, modified it over seemingly the multiple decades that she's owned it. So at this point, it might be a Guinevere, but I would not hesitate to say that it's, one of a kind.
There's also, like, the weird, interesting case of Frankie seeing that, like, fantasy world with her 3 plushes talking to her.
Yeah.
The hand that feeds.
But when Andy gets home, she sees reality, which just shows that they're, well, plushes, only a little weirder. Is something going on with Frankie here? Like, is she seeing the same sort of fantasy world that the Guinevere bots are? Let's just say I'm very interested to see where this goes. But today, I want to tackle some of the biggest mysteries.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea what could be happening with Frankie there.
What exactly is this mysterious blue lung sickness that all of the average folks seem to be contracting? How exactly is it related to the parks? And is there any way to reverse it? Why are the parks spreading this sickness madness in the first place? And maybe, most weirdly of all, how the heck is this actually a story about the little guy getting back at giant corporations like Disney and fighting them with their own art? Get your blue burgers and talking plushies ready, loyal theorists, as we jump into this fight. One of the biggest storylines below the surface of this pilot was the fact that a lot of the characters seemed to be getting sick, and specifically hacking up a strange blue liquid.
I mean, again, like, I don't think that's, again, going to the whole cobalt thing, I think it could literally just be the fact, you know, they have, like, cobalt in their lungs and they're hacking up cobalt-filled phlegm. Now, I mean, I know it's not, you know, very sci-fi or anything, but at the same time, like, that would still be very deadly.
Like it happens with this cranky dude who confronts Andy, coughing it up into her face. Like, jeez, did COVID teach us nothing? Like, come on, guy. And then later, when Andy is making a deal with Sparky, they spit in their hands and shake on it. But when Sparky looks at his hands, we see that there's blue gunk in it from Andy. So it looks like she's at the beginnings of getting sick too. We see on various ads and billboards throughout the episode that this is likely a disease called blue lung. And it's a big enough issue that there are companies literally offering insurance for it. What's more, this unnatural blue color seems to be a recurring motif in split-second moments from the pilot. Some newborn babies are being born blue, park food being blue, blue smoke coming from the industrial areas of the park, blue liquid in barrels being dumped from the park, that sort of thing. Like, even the Guinevere bots seem to be bleeding blue. Now, at first I thought that this might be literally a stand-in for blood. Like it's a way for Glitch to get away with having a lot of gory-looking fights in the series without it being actual blood and
But then there's actual
like they even
blood.
say in the show that robots run on
Blood and fear.
so maybe that's literal. See, YouTube will ding and often age-gate videos that have excessive blood in them. We've actually used this same trick before with some of our editors going in and changing the color of blood in scenes that we're showing to make it feel less human. Well, like we did this with a couple of Invincible theories, for instance, because blood is just all over that show. And I mean, with what we see with some of the Guinevere robots, I don't think they would be getting away with this if it was like actually red blood, right? I mean, Olivia is dragging along one of the robots by her intestines in the cold open. It's covered in blue liquid.
But when Guinevere, you know, fights Sir Arthur, because I also learned that's the name of that giant robot that, you know, was in the Underlabs, there's a lot of red blood there. For some reason, Sir Arthur's filled with it.
And these characters are like coughing up blood, so maybe that's it. Is what I was thinking, at least until the last scene of the show. Yeah, towards the back quarter of the episode, when Frankie and Andy are getting beat up by that big Sir Arthur Sun Knight, they both bleed, and it's clearly red blood. So this blue stuff clearly has something else going on here. But what could it be? Well, given the information we have about newborns being blue, I wonder if there was something there we could dig into to get us some answers. Babies, or anyone really, turning blue is known as cyanosis, and it's caused by a lack of oxygen or poor oxygen circulation, which, hey, lines up pretty well with the idea of blue lung, but also comes with the side effect of, you know,
death.
Being dead. Well, at least in a lot of cases, since, you know, your body isn't getting the amount of oxygen it needs to survive.
Wait, actually, sorry, I just remembered, wasn't there like a guy, he takes this old-timey medicine that's like made out of silver or something like that. That's literally turned his skin blue as well. Oh god, what was his name? It's been so long since I've thought about that. Could that have something to do with it?
So, I'm not sure that's what this is. Well, it could also be a symptom of pulmonary fibrosis, a disease that hits the lung and can be caused by radiation exposure to the chest. There might be more to work with here, since the idea of these robots giving off radiation seems entirely within the realm of possibility, right? It's just like kind of the vibe of this show, right? In fact,
Yeah, I mean, I think there literally was a warning somewhere saying, you know, do not hug Guinevere or something like that.
on parkplanet.net, the promotional website for the Knights of Guinevere series, which is framed as an in-universe webpage, one of the warnings in the safety and rules section reads, "Don't hug me too long, I damage genomes." That seems like a very radiation-coded warning, doesn't it?
Okay,
But
yeah.
that's not the only thing that this could be. In fact, I think the radiation answer doesn't really account for all of the weird blue smokestacks and food food and other stuff we see throughout the show.
Radioactive
But
smoke.
thankfully, there are other potential answers here. Like, first up, if something is coloring your saliva or mucus blue, that is not normal, and it's usually the result of certain foods or dyes getting into your system. Makes sense with the blue-colored smoke and such, but that's also kind of unsatisfying. Another option, though, could be cobalt.
Hey, what was I saying?
There could be a lot of the element cobalt in the air and food and stuff like that. Oh, and shoutouts to Reddit user NoFace Today, who was the first person I saw point this out and got me to look into it, though it looks like they got it from Tumblr to start with. See, if you have a lot of cobalt in your system, that can lead to cobalt-induced cardiomyopathy. Basically, it gives you circulation problems like we've discussed already. They also claim that it can cause blue saliva, but I've had trouble finding a credible scientific source on this, so please let me know in the comments if you can find one, because I think this is a really cool answer to this question. Also, side note, but I can't hear cobalt and not think about cobalt and calcium, a big fan site for my favorite band ever, Coheed and Cambria. Shoutouts to all of my fellow children of the fence. Gut Apollo 1 is
Literally
their best
never
album.
heard of that before.
Don't at me. Anyway, another idea? Well, it could also be silver. See, there's a strange side effect of prolonged exposure to silver, or silver dust, known as argyria, which turns the body blue. This was most famously seen with a man named Paul Carrison, who applied a mixture containing silver to his skin to try to treat some of his health issues. Carrison and others suffering from argyria didn't ever really cough up blue fluids or anything like that, at least as far as I could find, so the connection here is a little thin, but this does make more sense with the skin turning blue like those babies that we see on the show. And here's the thing, silver is also widely used in improving soft robotics. So, you know, robots that could look, act, and feel like human beings. Kind of like Guinevere, right? Though honestly, in the end, it's likely we won't end up knowing like the exact chemical composition of this blue stuff and whether it contains cobalt or silver or some other magical sci-fi.
Probably both.
But I mean, come on, it's still fun to speculate. So here's what I'm thinking. Obviously, the parks and their technology are having some negative effects on the people working there and the folks on the planet's surface. They're constantly getting bombarded with whatever this blue stuff is, whether that's mutated robot blood or radiation or cobalt or silver or some weird sci-fi concept we haven't been introduced to yet, or some combination of the lot. And this is causing an epidemic disease that's destroying the lungs, skin, and bodies of everyone impacted by it. But then this begs the question, why? What could possibly be worth endangering everyone in and around the parks on this?
Money. That is it. That is literally going to be it.
I mean, even if we wanted to think it's just some cartoonishly evil version of corporate greed, you know, more than it is in real life, and they don't care about...
Cartoonishly evil? It's not that cartoonish. It's not that far out of the way.
Hurting their workers or the people under the parks? The rich folks in this world don't seem immune to this damage. Orville has blue splotches on his skin, just like the older guy who coughs on Andy does. What could possibly be so important to put everyone at risk like this? Well, the answer to that is easy. Family. Stick with me here. In the show's cold open, when we're introduced to Olivia as a child, we get this strange line in an interaction with her father, Orville.
Happy birthday, sweetheart. I hope this can make up for... I don't think I need to say it.
He then goes on to say that Olivia should let go of her past because her future can be as bright and beautiful as the parks. So I could read this as meaning a couple of different things. Like, first off, it could be that Olivia's been diagnosed with some terrible illness. I mean, we do see her very sick when she's older later in the episode. But alternatively, well, maybe they're talking about her mom, a mother who has died.
I mean, I have heard, a fair number of people suggesting that Guinevere is at the very least modeled after her mother, given, the assumed silhouette that has been removed from the family portrait above her bed.
We don't really see Olivia's mother in the show, other than maybe this painting above Olivia's bed. We see a girl with dark hair flanked by what seem to be her mother and father, though we can't really see them. They're like out of focus and their heads are cut off and that sort of stuff. Now, your first thought might be that this girl is Olivia, and the two figures we don't see are her parents. But the more I've thought about it, there's another possibility. While these two girls look very similar, similar. Notice how Olivia has bright, blondish hair in this opening scene? Dana later confirmed this to be white or silver, but the girl in the painting has very dark brunette hair? Well, what if they weren't the same girl? What if this little girl in the painting is Olivia's mother, and that's why they look so similar? Is that a big swing? Maybe, but that would mean that this is a portrait of Olivia's mom and grandparents, which is also why we don't see her father's face. It'd tip us off that this is an entirely different family unit than it's implied to be. So combine this with the fact that Olivia is clearly sad, obsessed with fixing the robot in this room, and that her father is trying to make up for something bad that happened? Not too hard to put 2 and 2 together here and assume that her mother has died. But on top of that, I believe that some part of the mother, whether it be her mind, her soul, her consciousness, has been reused or trapped within Guinevere in some way. To be honest, this one's a bit of a big swing at the moment. There is a bit of evidence here, enough that I wanted to raise it, but there was one particular moment that kind of sealed the deal for me.
I mean, I could definitely see it if Park Planet is as evil or just uncaring as, it's being portrayed as. It very much seems like in the modern day, at the very least, Olivia being so bedridden, and probably, while she is like the owner, CEO, or whatever of the company, probably is, very hands-off because of her, of her condition. And given her obsession with the robot, it very might be that, she's never really taken a hands-on approach to the company. So it could very well have just been, like a company saying, "Oh, hey, we need like our Princess Guinevere, to be attractive and and also be, and be approachable to young girls. And what's more approachable to a young girl than her mother? So we'll just, copy Olivia's mother's mind if we have it on like a digital hard drive or something like that, use it as like a base template, and then just make the character off there because, hey, money."
That made me feel confident enough to bring it up here. The Guinevere bot we see in the cold open, the one that Kid Olivia is working on? Well, it's difficult to see, but when she takes her Olympic dive into the park trying to escape Olivia and Orville, you can see very clearly that her hair isn't completely blue. There's some brown or black still there in the tips.
I mean, I could see that, but at the same time, I always just assumed that was because of the lighting. Because again, she's falling towards an area with a lot of yellow lights.
This seems like a very, very intentional detail, especially when those dark tips aren't really part of any other Guinevere's design. And when you just showed us a little girl with brown hair that's different than the other little girl in the show. What if parts of Olivia's mother have been literally reused here? Or if an earlier version of the Guinevere bot had completely brown or black hair to emulate her more, but that was changed to blue to be more fitting with the park? And believe it or not, but that's not all. So the name Guinevere was definitely chosen intentionally. See, that's actually a name that comes from Arthurian legend, and if you actually look into who that character is, it tells us a lot. How so? Well, in many versions of the legend, Guinevere was the wife of King Arthur. And wouldn't you know it, but there's also a version of Arthur in the Knights of Guinevere. Remember that giant robot with the sun face that attacked Frankie, Andy, and Guinevere towards the end of the episode, which Guinevere then totally wrecked off screen? His name is Sir Arthur, and he's voiced by Sung-Wan Cho, the internet's very own Pro ZD. And wouldn't you know it, but Sung-Wan Cho also voiced Orville Park. So the robot representing Guinevere's husband is voiced by the same person who voiced Olivia's dad. So it makes sense that her mom would be Guinevere. And just really quick, you might be thinking, hey, Sung-Wan voiced like 5 characters in the pilot. It could just be using a great voice actor in multiple roles.
Which is a little weird, because one of the voices there was just factory worker. And I don't remember actually hearing any factory workers in the episode, at all. Like, there was, when Frankie walks into the factory, she kind of gestures to another guy that's working on the same line as her, but there's no words exchanged. She just kind of waves, he waves back saying, "Oh, it's okay if you're late," and then they just get to work stamping cups.
Like, it's not uncommon for an actor to have a billion different parts in a project like this, since most of them have incredible range. Like, did you know that the same actor voices Vegeta, Piccolo, Yamcha, Nappa, Popo, and over 3 dozen more characters in Dragon Ball? That's still wild.
I believe it.
And hey, that might be true here in the Knights of Guinevere too, but also consider this. The same actor voices both Orville and Sir Arthur in the French, German, Dutch, Russian, Ukrainian, and Indonesian dubs of the show.
I mean, I wouldn't put it out there. I mean, I assumed it was just based off of Olivia's father, Sir Arthur, I should say. And I mean, I can completely understand, reusing the same like voice actors for multiple parts, but at the same time, like, he literally does nothing to change his voice. It's literally the exact same voice that, Sir Arthur has the exact same voice as Oliver Park.
Though not in the Spanish one, for some reason. Regardless, that many dubs
Okay.
having the same actor is way more than can be considered a coincidence. That was an intentional choice, one that suggests that Sir Arthur is supposed to be a robotic representative of Olivia's father, Orville, and thus just more evidence we can point to Guinevere being a representative of her mom. So, of course, this now then begs the question, is there anything else we can pull from Arthurian lore to get an idea of where things might be headed? And the answer is yes, totally. In some versions of the Arthurian legend, Guinevere also had a romance with Arthur's nemesis Mordred, who was also Arthur's son, which just makes that very messy and complicated family drama. So,
yeah, the whole thing with Arthurian legend is, since it's not actual history, you've had many authors over the centuries that it existed just adding on to it and changing parts of it. So you have a lot of parts that are like really weird and convoluted and kind of icky.
Potentially, there could be a Mordred character introduced at some point, but something that's even more likely to me, well, Guinevere also has another famous romance with one of the Knights of the Round Table, Arthur's trusted friend, Sir Lancelot. And wouldn't you know it, but this eventually caused the death of Arthur and the downfall of his kingdom. So then, wouldn't it be interesting if then, alongside Sir Arthur in the pilot, we saw another giant robot? Oh wait, we totally do! One that has a moon crest around his face rather than a sun. What if this is the stand-in for Lancelot in the Knights of Guinevere? That could mean that this giant robot is going to switch sides at some point and join the Knights of Guinevere, or maybe become a character conflicted and torn between the Parks and Guinevere the robot. Or hey, maybe he could just cause the downfall of the Parks entirely for some other reason. That would just be like a completely alternative telling of this story, right? Like a different take of this Arthurian legend entirely that tells it from a different point of view. And you know what? Honestly, that might be the entire point of this story. I don't know if you picked this up at all, like it was pretty obvious if you knew what you were looking for, but a lot of the inspiration for the Knights of Guinevere seems to be based on the Walt Disney Company. Like, don't get me wrong, there's certainly more going on here, but if you think about who created the show and how Disney cut Dana Terrace's previous work short with the Owl House, and how much criticism Disney's gotten over the years for how they treat their artists and stories, that connection just makes sense, and it's all over this show. There's a point where we see a design drawing for Guinevere covered in notes that absolutely seem like they're from some committee trying to force all of the character out of her. Something.
Honestly, it's one of those things, like, I will fully admit there's a few things I like, but at the same time, like, I do not like Disney, like, at all. Like, I've heard just so many bad things about them over the years. Like, even before, the more modern stuff, like, the big thing I really started souring Disney for me was like Treasure Planet. The biggest reason why, Treasure Planet failed, like, completely, basically, was the fact that they didn't advertise it, like, at all. The execs purposefully made it fail.
I bet Terrace had to deal with a lot, unfortunately. And there's a news article in the same part of the episode about a live-action remake of some Guinevere animation getting greenlit because, quote, no one asked for it, so we're making it. A clear swipe at the mouse. Even the fact that the parks are polluting themselves and the people responsible for creating what drives their business connects back here to destroying people and long-term planning for the sake of short-term profit. And there are just more and more connections, but you get the idea. So just think about what Disney does, what they've built their empire on. They take pre-existing myths and fables and then sanitize them. Or they buy a company, force it into their machine, and extract all the value they can out of it, all while making sure it fits into the narrative they want to tell. And then they sell you on the whole experience. Where? At their parks. Knights of Guinevere is taking that idea and doing their own spin on it. Ironically, they're doing what Disney does to Disney. Like, yes, they're clearly using imagery of Disney and their parks for the parks in the show, but they're also doing their own spin on Arthurian legend, which also happens to be the source material for one of Disney's most iconic animated films. But instead of sanitizing it, instead of it becoming a story told from the point of view of the corporation, it's now from the point of view of the little guy, the people who actually do the work, the maintenance, the dirty jobs that create the art we love. It's about that art taking a stand against the corporations using it for their own despicable purposes. And given everything going on in the world right right now, man, we could certainly use a lot more of that. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.
Oh god, honestly, again, I've said it before, like, I said when I watched it, and I'll say it again, like, I am honestly looking forward to so much of what Glitch is making. Like, again, I'm sad that Amazing Digital Circus is almost over. But like, Gaslight District, Knights of Guinevere, they all look so good, and I cannot wait for more, and I hope Glitch has a long and successful life ahead of it as a production company, because honestly, at this point, seeming like they've had such a good string of like successes under them. And I mean, granted, I know it's not going to last. I mean, eventually they're going to have some show that does eventually flop. I mean, that's just the way of things. But I hope that they, you know, they do continue to succeed in the long run, because we honestly need more stuff like this. But yeah, this is definitely going to be it for now. So yeah, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.